Hey everybody, it's Eric from EPAutos.com, your libertarian car guy. Thought I'd talk a little bit this morning about some news that came over the transom, which is that used vehicle prices are up again. The average transaction price, that industry jargon that you hear, meaning just what the average person is paying for a used vehicle, is now over $30,000, if you can imagine that, for a used vehicle. Of course, I'm not particularly surprised by that when you think about how expensive new vehicles have become. New vehicles now transact for more than $50,000. So you can imagine what happens when a vehicle that is bought for, say, $55,000 becomes a used vehicle that's 2 or 3 years old. Well, it's going to be significantly more expensive as a used vehicle than a vehicle that was, say, $35,000 when it was new would be. And there's a compounding problem there as well, in that there's a limited supply of used vehicles. It's not like they're stamping them out all the time, so if you're somebody who's looking for a particular model, there are relatively fewer of them to choose from. There's also probably more competition, at least increasingly, because a lot of people are being driven out of the new car showroom by dint of the prices, and so they're looking for deals, and that tends to increase the prices of things that are desirable. So I think we're going to see this problem get worse in the years ahead, because I see no sign whatever that new vehicles are becoming less rather than more expensive. If anything, it's the opposite, because we've kind of reached this strange place in space and time where they keep adding what used to be luxury features to new vehicles. I'll give you a perfect example. I'm driving a Nissan Armada, emphasis on Nissan, right now this week. And again, it's a Nissan, not an Infiniti. And this Armada, if you were to take it back in time 5 or 6 years, would absolutely qualify as an Infiniti, as a Q56. And if you didn't know it, you would assume it was, because of all the stuff it has. I mean, look at the big touchscreen and all of that, and all the other features that you get, 3-zone climate control, clip-ish stereo, and all of that is nice. I'm not disputing that the vehicles now are quote-unquote nicer than they used to be, but the point is, you pay more for nicer, don't you? It costs more to spend a night in a suite at a fancy hotel than it does to go down to the Best Western. And there's something bizarre and weird about this kind of implicit assumption that seems to be operative in the new car business, that everybody can afford to spend a night in a suite at a fancy hotel, so to speak, rather than Best Western. We used to have a car market in which the bulk of the vehicles out there were not luxury brand or luxury priced vehicle. They were, bread and butter vehicles. Even things like Toyotas and Hondas, these used to be sort of the blue chip family type cars. A Camry, for crying out loud, now costs close to $30,000 brand new, or I think even more than that now. I'd have to go back and check the number, but at any rate, they're about 30 grand right now, for a freaking Camry. And yeah, I know in the case of the Camry, they added a hybrid drivetrain and made that standard, and it gets better gas mileage. Well, whoop-de-doo. I mean, what good does it do you? Rather, what good does it do your bottom line if you're having to pay thousands of dollars more to get a vehicle, and it saves you a little gas? It's like a consolation prize, kind of like this $2,000 stimmy check that Trump is dangling as a way to make us all feel better about the thousands of dollars he's been costing us via his tariff policies, tariffs being just taxes. I'm not sure what's going to happen going forward, but I don't think it's good. There's a lag time built into vehicle production, meaning, what you're seeing right now available at the dealership is kind of premised on what the economic situation was a couple years ago, and the assumption was that people could afford these things, and they could afford to spend $700, $800, $900 a month in car payments. Or I found myself a Clover, and it's a truck Clover, and we're going 49 miles, 48 miles an hour on a road with a 55 mile an hour speed limit. Oh, Clover, bye-bye Clover. I don't get it. I've segue comment here. I have never understood that why people who buy trucks, burly trucks, usually with a powerful engine, seem now to be the Prius people of our time, meaning the people who creep along at significantly below the speed limit in their high-powered, burly e-truck. I think maybe part of it is that the only people who can afford the burly heat trucks anymore are aging people. People who aren't particularly in a hurry, and maybe their reflexes and eyesight, they're not so good anymore, and so They just want to kind of poke along, but it's still kind of aggravating. Anyway, I'm sorry that I got distracted about that. The broader point that I wanted to make is that the market conditions have changed, and all of a sudden people are pretty tapped out. People meaning most people, and they just can't afford these things anymore. And the manufacturers now are going to be stuck, I think, increasingly with a glut of these vehicles they can't sell because they're too expensive. And that actually may turn out to be the silver lining to this cloud, because once that happens, there's going to be a lot of incentive to start making affordable vehicles again. I'd particularly like to see economy cars come back. I've harped about this several times in the past, both in my articles and on the radio shows that I do. By which I mean there are no economy cars anymore. You remember those? If you're a Gen X person or older, you'll remember them. If you're a millennial or one of the millennials' kids, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. There used to be basic cars that did not come with all the things that are now standard in pretty much everything, including all the power options, good stereo, climate control, air conditioning, yada yada. It used to be you could pick up a basic car that had a manual transmission, no air conditioning, was optional if you wanted it, didn't have a particularly good radio. It was Spartan, but it was cheap. So I understand, again, people want nice things, but not everybody can afford nice things right away, particularly people who are young, right? Wouldn't you like, if you're a young person listening to this, to be able to buy an inexpensive, reliable little car that got good gas mileage, or just a basic truck, for example? None of those things are available right now. I'd very much like to see them become available for all of the obvious reasons, and it may finally come to pass that conditions compel the manufacturers to do that. So we'll find out, because all of this is going to, I think, find its resolution one way or the other in the next 2 or 3 years at the outside, and maybe sooner than that. If you're interested in more, hope you'll stop by epautos.com and have a look. And I encourage you to, as they say, join the conversation. I don't data mine you. I don't sell your email. I don't charge to post comments on EP Autos, and I don't charge you to be able to have people read your comments, unlike excrement. So that's all I've got. Long-winded rant done. Thanks for listening, and we'll have more for you again soon.